So your design is finished. The prototype works perfectly. You made all the changes required to get ready for manufacturing. You got all the documentation, design drawing, all the requirements for provide to manufacturers, and now ready to go ahead. The next step is setting up manufacturing and supply chain, finding right to suppliers, and getting to the whole manufacturing process. This step is completely different to what you have already done till now, and one of the most important processes for you because that's where you see your final product ready to market. In this episode, let's talk about what actually takes place from your final design file to your real product that is ready for market, including finding the right suppliers, checking their quality control, checking and ensuring if they really can do what they say they do, placing in a first order, getting the samples, finalizing and confirming the right samples from manufacturing, and then go through the whole process of manufacturing. Your first step is finding the right suppliers for your product. And it is not just like Googling who can do injection molding in Melbourne or who can sheet metal manufacturing, I don't know, in somewhere in China or in Asia, or who's the right PCB manufacturers in Philippines or, locally, for example. Uh, it's a lot more than that. You need to know how to select your right manufacturing company. There are different factors that you need to consider. And if you haven't done this process before, not familiar with the manufacturing, it could be quite tough, but at the same time, really, really important. Finding a manufacturer is important because there are a lot of companies that they all can say that they can manufacture the product that you're after. Either it's sheet metal, laser cutting, or, for example, injection molding, extrusion, composite manufacturing, a different type of PCB manufacturing, for example, all those sort of different manufacturing processes. You need to know exactly what you require, what is important in your product in terms of the technicality, and who can do or manufacture your product better than others, what factors you need to consider, how you can validate all these companies that they all can say, for example, we do injection molding, who are the better partner for you. And there are a lot of factors there. Knowing about the type of machinery, the capabilities, their group and engineering support that you will get there, the quality control and systems that you will have there, the communication, they are all affecting the journey and experience that you have in your manufacturing. One of the key things that you want to know is that, for example, are you going to manufacture locally or are you going to overseas? There are different factors here that is important. One could be that for different reason, you want to support local manufacturers, or for marketing reason, you want to have made in Australia product, so you want to manufacture locally. So there are some pros and cons to it. Your price most likely would be a bit higher than what you can get from overseas. But at the same time, you have better trust, better communication, which is really important. Most likely have a better control over your IP. But at the same time, if you have a price sensitive product or some special product that we might not have the right manufacturer for it locally, then you might look into manufacturing overseas. Sometimes also you need to consider your overall supply chain. If you want to supply a product overseas to an overseas market, for example, somewhere in Asia, then you would be better off to manufacture somewhere close, considering all the freight costs and all the other product that might go into your product that needs to come, for example, from different countries. So there are a lot of these sort of considerations that needs to be considered, and those are the things that you need to know before you're planning your supply chain and before you start finding the right suppliers for your product. The next step after you finalizing your supplier and the pricing terms, condition, and everything else is to start the process of manufacturing. Um, that is a bit different if you have any electronic parts in your product or if you are making electronic devices. Because most of what I'm going to explain for electronic device and electronic parts has been done already in your prototyping process. You already done the testing, you already chose all your parts, all done with almost the same sort of final electronic parts, bare board, and manufacturing. So there's not much that's going to change. The only things you need to do for manufacturing is just to finalizing your test plan, test jig, and the process that the manufacturer needs to verify and test your final manufacturing parts. And of course, getting some samples and testing and make sure that they are correct. But for other manufacturing processes, what you usually need to do in some of the cases is to making some mold. The process of making a mold also is very complicated. You need to know how the mold design process works, how to verify and answer some of the questions that comes from the tool makers or manufacturers, and how to answer them in terms of what is correct or what is not, and what is going to affect your final product. Choosing the right materials also very important. You need to specify, but if you are going to manufacture in Australia or somewhere in China or in Korea or anywhere else, for example, in the world, there are local manufacturers and local suppliers exist in that area. You cannot specify one grade of one specific manufacturer and ensure that that can be found everywhere in the world. So you need to verify if that grade of materials, that supplier of the materials, is the same as what you already picked, for example, in your engineering drawing and documentation. Some of those, technicalities and small things can be vital, can be very, very important. For example, if you wanted to pass any specific standard, you need to know what sort of grade of materials you need to choose. So then later on in your certification, you don't have any problems there. Otherwise, you might fail, and then it adds a lot of time and a lot of cost into your process and delay everything for you. So after the tooling and everything's done, then you will start to get some samples. Usually they are called, for example, injection molding, there are T0, T1 samples. So those samples will be checked by the manufacturers, and then it might send to you or your design companies to check them. So you need to know exactly what's important, what to measure, what is the fault in your product, and what's acceptable and what's not. So that needs to be done, and then go back to the manufacturer or tool maker. So then they adjust and fix the tool, and then make another sample, send it over to you again, check it, go back to them, talking about the process again and the issues and fixing them. So this can repeat a few times. It's not unexpected that you've done this process for 6, 9, even more times to fix all the issues in your manufacturing. Depends on the complexity of your part. Of course, you want to avoid it and you want to make sure that's not happening. But when you have a very complex part, this can happen. So you need to, in your time frame, you need to consider time for all those, modification and changes that can happen. And when it's all done, then you will get your sort of final pre-production samples. Then you can check, you can test it. That's one of the very good time to do all your testing of the, final materials, final product with the final process and final materials, and making sure that everything's working. There's no issues in your, final working prototype or samples that you want to, launch into the market soon, and then give the green light to the manufacturers to manufacture everything. So then they're going to manufacture the whole process. Again, there is a chance that some new issues comes to the table, and they're asking for some guidance or if that's okay or not. So there are a lot of details in this process that you need to consider. You need to know how to deal with them, how to deal with the manufacturers, tool makers, and different suppliers. Assembly is a very another important part of the process, how to assemble them and how to test them to ensure that the final product, when assembled together, still working perfectly. Packaging, labels, user manual, all of these are another very, very important parts that you need to keep in mind. So if you haven't done this process yourself before, if you are not working or used to work in the manufacturing and didn't know about all these details, you definitely need to get some help, because simply, if any of these steps or processes not done correctly, or you're dealing with not a very good manufacturer, you will end up having a lot of problems that affect your project and your launch, and later on could cause a lot of unfortunate customer claims and issues that you have.